is the last word. This time a bitch is the last word. Don't try to lie, cause I know your passwords. Now here's your violin, overreactor. This time a bitch is the last word.
What time is it?
It's Nooner time! Welcome to the Nooner Show with J-Dubs and Rocky. We're broadcasting live from the Podcast Detroit studios in rockin' Royal Oak, Michigan. Be sure to find us at podcastdetroit.com.
What time is it?
It's Nooner time!
Somebody bring me a mirror.
Happy Hump Day it is.
It's Hump Day.
It's Hump Day, and we have our new co-host with us, Miss Nora Mitchell.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Yes, so, okay, so today's a little confusing.
I know.
But very exciting
Yes.
because, one, we are at the Motown Mansion today, and we're broadcasting live.
My new home.
Yeah, no, my new home. What rooms are you guys claiming already? I know Rocky was in Barry Gordy's bedroom over there.
Yes.
Could. That's why we're running late. Actually, we couldn't get her out of there.
It was you that we were trying to get out of the bed. I was like, lady, I was in the closet.
You were in the closet.
And I was just standing there going, wow.
Wow, taking pictures. And you know what's funny is so. Actually, we were running late because we did get a tour of the mansion, which is just
Oh my God,
breathtaking,
beautiful.
unbelievable. And today is going to be a little not our typical show because we are going to have some people sitting down for interviews, and nothing's really structured or scheduled today. It's just the owner of the house, Cynthia Reeves. When she has a minute, she's going to sit down with us, and I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah. It's gonna be so
And
interesting.
then the owner of Aaron Estates is going to sit down because he's the one that is organizing this whole auction and sale.
Yeah, but he's a local guy. And
Yeah, from Birmingham, young guy,
owner of
Yes.
the company. Yeah.
owner of the company. So we're going to sit down and find out how he got into this. And I think he's actually waiting around over there. It's funny because he asked us if we had Instagram because he's young.
And we laughed.
Yeah,
No.
we laughed. Said no. So then he wanted to know if we had MySpace. And we said no. And you know what? We might have. We should probably get it. See if we can talk to Miss Reeves right now.
Yep.
Can we do the interview right now? Oh, fantastic!
I'm excited.
So we're not doing Facebook Live. We are going to videotape it, and
We'll have
then
the video up within the next few days here.
yeah, don't make any promises.
No. No promises will be made.
And we have Miss Cynthia Reeves in the house. Her house, by the way. Woohoo. Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
We're
Yeah.
so glad to be here.
Oh,
we are.
we're so honored.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't pull out my Motown Museum membership card because I'm a member of Motown.
She
the
pulls it
museum.
out everywhere.
I do. In fact, Dave tried to take it and auction it off too. I said no. But so, tell us how you've been here about 15 years, right?
Correct. Right.
Okay, so how did you acquire this? Like, why this house? How did that happen?
Well, I grew up across the street. My parents have lived over there since, well, I won't give years, but it's over 50 years that they've owned a home across the street. And I used to see the house in its heyday with Barry Gordy and all the wonderful parties that he had. I remember the red carpet would roll all the way down the street and around the corner. And
Really?
seeing Aretha Franklin and others come out of the cars to the parties. I went to work in Washington, D.C. as an attorney. I was a partner in a New York office in the D.C. office of a New York firm.
Wow.
And worked with some of the political folks back in the day. And there was a change of administration when President Bush came in, Bush 2 came in, and a lot of people left town. And I decided it was time for me to kind of think about it. My mother was getting older, and she said, you know, if you ever have an opportunity to return to Detroit, I'd love to have you nearer to me. And I got a call from a local firm downtown, Honigman, and they offered me a partnership and said,
Wow.
hey, we'd love to have you. you come. You're a national expert in this area, and we'd love to have you come. We see this connection to Detroit that you have, and so I believe in Kismet. So I said, I'll come back on to Detroit, and in going to work, I decided to come back and live with my mom, and every day I would pass this house to go to work, and I noticed that the shades were cocked a certain way every day, and the newspapers were always stacked a certain way, and so I had one of our paralegals do some research and found out that Berry Gordy still owned it. I wrote him a letter, and I said, I did the research in the home, and I said, this is a wonderful home, and it doesn't deserve to be shuttered. It deserves to be part of the community. I believe that homes have life in them, and they imbue life. And I said, a home like this needs to be part of the community. It needs to be of service in the community. And I remember the days growing up, and I told him that, anytime that there was a party here, the whole neighborhood lit up, because it was like, what is he going to do now? Who's coming? That kind of thing. And so I expressed to him that, but I also expressed to him something that I have a love of, which is architecture. I'm an architecture and an interior design fanatic, and I talked about the architecture of the home, and I had done some research on it, and that resonated with him. And so I was contacted by his representatives, and they said, he's going to sell you this house because he was impressed by your letter. He realizes that you understand the legacy of this home. And so that's how I ended up getting the house. And it's interesting because after I purchased it, there were stories about it. And what happens with this particular house is you become part of a family. It was built by a guy named Nels Mickelson in 1917. It's the 100-year anniversary of this house. So his great-grandson came and introduced himself to me when the news came out about me buying a house. And Pablo Davis, who sold the home to Berry Gordy, came out. And Pablo Davis is a noted artist, and his work is in the Smithsonian. And he actually worked on the installation at the DIA with Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. And so he was at the age of, the spry age of 90 or so. He came to visit me at the house. And he showed me pictures of him with Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera at the Art Institute. He had photos of himself. And so he told me the story of how Berry Gordy purchased the house from him. He said that Berry Gordy would bring over the musical acts to perform for him, and he would have and Pablo would have the manservant with the white gloves come and serve them. Little did he know that was Pablo's brother, that they were just that they were trying to impress Berry. But that story told me about, but it kind of shared with me about the love that Berry Gordy has for the home as a structure. It's a beautiful structure, and I think that probably resonated with him when he allowed me to purchase it.
How long did it take him to get back to you? About
good
it?
question.
It was within a month. It was very quick.
Really?
I sent them the letter, and I just got the call. Now it took a while to negotiate the purchase of the house,
because the house was not up for sale, though.
It was not up for sale, right? Exactly.
Were you shocked when you got a response that quick?
I was shocked that I got through to him. That it even got through to him.
Right?
That was the thing. But I had taken a kind of a back street way. Lawyers can figure out how to get information.
Yeah.
So
This is a good lawyer.
Exactly. If you ever, I am available. Contract lawyer. But what I did was I found out that I found a way to get through to him directly, as opposed to going through his media representatives and things like that. And so I just went right to his office, and I sent it to his legal counsel. And knowing as an attorney, lawyers have to turn things over to their clients. Exactly. And so his lawyer had to show him the letter, because that's the job of a lawyer. You can't just kind of sit on it. So
smart.
I sent it to
That's brilliant. Taken.
Not that we could ever afford anything like that.
right.
Idea.
Right. So.
Wow. All right. So after all that happened, how long before you moved in?
It probably took about 1.5 to 2 years to move in, because when I purchased the home, it had been empty for 5 years, completely empty. Now, when Berry Gordy owned it, he purchased in '67, and then he moved Motown to California in '69. So he actually lived here for a couple years, but he protected it for all the years that he owned it.
Because it was like 35 years later.
Right, exactly. And he cared for it and maintained it. And he had an on-site property manager who lived here. And that gentleman died 5 years before I purchased the house. And the first winter after he died, they did not put in an on-site person. His local representatives had a person that was just kind of coming checking on the house. And over a course of a couple of weeks, the pilot light in the furnace blew out, and the pipes froze. And this house is heated by hot water. It's not steam heat.
Okay.
So there's actually hot water running through these pipes. And so once those pipes froze, they all burst throughout the house. So every room in this property was damaged because of the pipe bursting. And so when I came into the house, there were construction things all over. There was, there were scaffolding. I guess they had a dispute with the contractor, so that all this equipment was left in here, and so it was really much torn. And that particular contractor really didn't have a care for historic homes. The back entry was a marble entryway, and they took a sledgehammer to us. I came into marble shards on the floor that they had broken through to get to the heating systems, and so it was really in bad condition in that way. And so it took a couple years to put it back together, and it took time because I wanted to honor the historic nature of the home. As anyone who loves these historic homes knows, we're a little group, a breed unto ourselves. We've got to find the right doorknob. We've got to find the right paint stain.
How did you do that?
It's time and research.
Is it all research?
And I did it with the help of family. I had a cousin who is a master carpenter, and he lived here for 2 years on site. And my brother moved in about a year later and lived here for about half a year before I moved in. And they were, and I probably would have still be it with my mom, except for they were like, listen, we're living in the sawdust and stuff. You need to come over here and live with the sawdust and the paint fumes as we are. You're the leader of this project. You need to. So I moved over here. I got my bedroom set up, and I moved in. And
but what a blessing to have, everybody here for you, your family.
Well, I grew up with a family like that. My grandfather played baseball for the Negro Leagues, and I have 18 first cousins, and our grandfather instilled in us this concept of having a career and a trade. And so growing up, he was a property owner, and he had been raised, in a Jewish household because he worked for them, and so he learned that from that family, and so he carried it over to us. And so I have cousins who are doctors that know how to do plumbing. I'm a lawyer, and I know how to do drywall and things like that. Because he always felt that in times of difficult financial times, you can do something with your hands. And so I have a lot of family members who are still actively involved in real estate because of that early training that we had. So it wasn't as intimidating as we thought it would be. It's just like Damon Keith said to me when I talked to him about my concerns about this house. The judge said, well, Cynthia, you eat it, the African proverb, like an elephant, a bite at a time. And it just kind of calmed me down, just room at a time.
Wow. What did your mom say when you said, guess what? Remember that
my
house we
mother,
looked at?
well, like any mother, she was concerned for me. She said, you're going to go out of the world backwards with that. This is crazy. And I kind of reminded her that, part of my pitch to Berry Gordy was that I was single. I was just about to be 40. And my friends who are married with kids are worried that I'm going to get ahead in the rat race because I don't have to pay money for college tuition. So this will allow me to throw my money away. Exactly. I'm getting ahead of them because I don't have to save for college. So I said, it'll level the playing field. They'll be happy. And so, but she was concerned about that. And I have pictures of her walking through the house with me, and she's got this frown on her face, like she's looking at these walls and the peeling plaster. And she's just she's just looking down. And I told her
like a mom would.
And I told, we would go through and take pictures to document everything. And I gave her a camera, and all of her pictures are of me in the house, like looking at things, and she's like catching my wonder of everything. But after everything was said and done, who had the most parties here? Cynthia, your aunt is retiring. Can we have a retirement party for your aunt so-and-so? Oh, Cynthia, my bridge club wants to do this.
Well, you had to keep the legacy going.
Well, that's a different kind of legacy, but I think she's had more parties here than I did. So she's enjoyed it. She's come around on her thinking, and she understands. I think she's a little bit more upset about the transition of the property than I am. It's been a great journey. I mean, she met Barack Obama here, and she has adopted him as her second son. So that's kind of a fun thing to be able to have those experiences. The people that have come through here. I remember one of the best parties that we had here was a Motown party, and they were shooting a documentary, and they built a sound stage, a real stage with the lights and everything in the backyard, and they had 200 seating for 200 under this tent, and I had my grounds crew put a I have like an outside lawn set up on a hill. There's like a little bunker, and so we're up on the hill, and we could overlook all the heads and see the stage. And the event was sponsored by Moet Champagne and everything, so they had lots of champagne.
Oh, wow.
Well, at some point they realized that I was the owner of the house, sitting out on the thing, so they just kept bringing us as much champagne as we wanted.
I
It
bet.
was like high-end food, like grilled lamb chops.
Oh, wow.
And I remember sitting there with my brother. I said, "Did you ever think in your life
Yeah, that's
we would be
right.
sitting in the our own backyard, drinking as much Moet champagne as
As
we
you
could,
want. Wow.
eating as much lamb chops, and listening to, like the Temptations and the Four Tops of Martha
That's
Reeves
so
in our own backyard?" It's like, I
Yeah.
just could pitch myself, and my brother looked at me and says, "Yep, I sure did. Give me another bottle."
Well, you're
I knew
living the
this was gonna
dream.
happen.
You're living the dream.
I
It's
lived the
wonderful.
dream. I
Yeah.
enjoyed
Yeah.
it, and now it's passing on to a new person. So.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about
Yeah.
that too, because everything I've read, and it's obvious that for you, it's not about just selling your home. I mean, there's a lot involved on who's going to be the next person.
Right. It took us 2 years to find an owner.
So, how you decided to sell it,
Right.
And what did you go through? Like
Yeah, what was the
emotionally,
process?
and
Right.
yeah, what was the
Well,
process?
I think I'm still going through that emotional process, and it probably
Okay.
won't happen until I actually turn the keys over. But I reached a certain age, a woman of a certain age, and I realized that I need to start thinking about the future for myself and that little hut in Cuba that I've always wanted to have,
Yeah.
that I can enjoy. And so I started to look for it, because owning a property like this is
Yeah.
an investment.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I spend more on heating bills than some people make in a year,
Right.
for a salary, and so you start to think, well, I could be putting that money into
Yeah.
401k or some other kind of investment, and I think that it's time to start thinking about a new owner and someone that could take it to the next level with the property. And so that was part of the decision making process that went to it and into it and everything else. And so that was why I did it. And I think I wanted to do it on my own terms. I wanted to be able to do it while I could still be able to be young and do other things with my
Right,
life.
yeah.
And so I took advantage of that opportunity, and I waited. Wasn't in a rush. I waited till I found the person I thought
I think
could
that
do
was
that.
the best
Like I
part
said.
of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right,
because
there
you're
was
not
not.
rush-
Yeah,
you're
there was not a rush. I
Yeah.
just, I had people that were coming in, and sometimes these guys, there's women here. I know there's guys here that they'll think, oh, little lady, let me just,
Yeah.
give you
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah.
had churches that wanted me to tithe the house to the church, and
Oh
I just
my
like
God,
this is
wow.
kind of, I said no. I said,
Did you know what you wanted? What type of person you wanted? What were there stipulations?
There weren't stipulations, but the kind of person I wanted was someone that I could believe had the financial resources to care for the home and was not going to buy this home to strip it. There are lots of homes that were stripped of all of their original architecture, and the beauty about this home is that it has been owned by millionaires throughout its history. And what I mean by that is that not only were these millionaires, but they all had in common that they were self-made. Nels Mikkelsen came here penniless
Right.
from Denmark. He made his wealth in lumber and
Right.
everything. L.A. Young was a traveling salesman. He came up on a patent for springs that he was able to sell. Barry Gordy,
Right.
Pablo Davis was an artist who was nationally renowned. And so, you have these people who came from humble beginnings, and they understand and appreciate
I was
that.
just gonna- yeah.
And so, I remember when I bought the house, I was standing here with a local antiques firm representative, and they were there with representatives of Gordy, and they were talking about, we can come in and we can remove that fountain and we can patch the wall and no one will ever see it. We did this to a home in Palmer Woods, and we got all the detail, and we were able to sell it. And we can take these wood walls down. And the attorneys looked at them and said, well, why don't you talk to the new owner? She's standing right behind you, and see if she wants to do that. And it's kind of a little awkward moment, but you see that
Yeah.
there's an industry of people that will strip these
Come
homes
through,
of
take
their
everything
architectural
away. I can't
value
even
and interest.
imagine.
That's
I just can't
And
even
so,
imagine.
yeah, and so that was part of it. I wanted to find someone that had the resources that wouldn't do
Right.
that they could keep the original historic light fixtures and keep the original historic woodwork and paneling and
Right.
could care for it and could take it to the next level. And so I
So
think I
now
found a
see why
person
it took
that
2
did.
years.
Yeah, it takes
Yeah.
a little time because
Yeah.
you have
Did he
people
write
come
you a
in.
letter?
Yes.
He did.
He did write me a letter. He did write me a letter, as did all the people that were buying it. I actually had one of the owners offered to keep a room for me in the house. I could always come back to.
wow.
Wow.
That was a tempting offer, but I really
Wow.
believe it's got to be their thing. It's
Yeah.
that they've got to make this home theirs, and
Right.
however
Yeah.
they're going to do it. So as much as I would love to have that bedroom in the house,
Yeah.
I thought
Right.
I've got to let it go.
So did you meet the new owner, the person that you are going to sell it to, or did sell it to? Is it a done deal, or
It's a done deal.
Okay.
We closed last August. I'm actually a tenant now, so that I'm. But
Okay.
you don't just empty it. You don't close on a house like this.
Right.
It's like there's no way I'm
Yeah, you
after
can't do it.
having these starts and stops that
Right.
I'm going to be ready to pack up and sign and key
Right.
it on the day of. I just take some time to get out of here. But
Right.
after we didn't meet. But we spoke on the phone because there were a couple of times where our representatives, being who they are, were zealous advocates for us in this transaction. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. Yes, we're going to do, but,
Yeah.
and so I just picked up the phone and said, listen, and so he and I were able to communicate, and then we
Okay.
go back and tell our people,
Right.
this is what we've agreed to do.
Oh,
No
that's
more posturing. This is
good.
what we're going to do. And so they were able, and that helped us to, so we had that initial bonding, to break through
Yeah.
that kind of, pretentiousness of it. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a pretentious person. I mean, I've been at my own parties and people have said, who are you? And I said, well, I'm your hostess for the night. Nice to meet you.
I'm the
You know,
owner.
like,
I would love to be next to you when you do that.
Oh, yeah.
it's so funny because it's
Yeah.
it's a funny thing because I drove, and it's a running joke. I am a very frugal person. I drove a 1990 Honda Accord until like 2 years ago, and only because it fell apart, like because I got a manhole cover attacked it, But so you would never know that kind of thing because I come from a family of people that are very high achievers, but we never forget where we came from.
Yeah.
I remember telling Barack Obama's story about, it doesn't matter how rich you are. If you have been here, if you're African American, this is the thing I feel. If you've been here for more than one generation, your family's been here for more than one generation, you've had government cheese. You may not have had it at your house, but
Yes,
you might have had it at your
you've had
grandma's
it.
house.
That's
Exactly.
right.
You may have been over at Sugar and Dim's house around the corner or something, meaning that we all come from humble exposures, and never forget that. And so some of the best experiences I've had in this home have been has been my ability within my power to allow people who might not otherwise have an opportunity to have something here happen. I had a young lady who was a postal worker, and she came and she said, I've always wanted to have a wedding here, a garden wedding in a place like this. I would just love to be able to, and I let her do it. I mean, 'cause I could, and it was such a wonderful thing to be able to do that.
gosh.
I've come home from work, and there were kids from school buses that were pulled out front, and they were taking pictures on the front porch, and they trampled all the roses I had installed the week before, and taking the pictures. And I come, and the teacher says, "Oh, we're so sorry, we're taking pictures." And I spent time with them. I talked to them about it, and I talked to them about the fact that you see these wonderful, iconic people, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, the Four Tops, the Temptations, these people who are wonderful entertainers. I said, but there's more to the music industry than this side of the microphone. I said, you can be an engineer, you can be a lawyer, you can be an accountant, you can be an agent. So think of it as a career in different ways. And so we talked about that with the kids, and that's a way to share with them. My brother's a teacher in the middle school, and so, that education, my parents were both educators, and so that part of it is important to me to let kids know that you can have these opportunities and that you can do this. I mean, I worked my way through law school as a janitor because I wanted to, I had to do something to make. I worked my way all the way through school. So I'm not.
And then you
of the
became
manner.
a partner?
I've
Bought
written
Motown Mansion,
I
right?
wrote 6 books. I became
Did you
written
really?
in tax law. I'm a tax nonprofit expert, and so I've written books on that. I'm a special.
You need to write a
thing.
book on your life.
Yes,
Never
you
mind
do.
tax.
I was just gonna
Nobody
say,
nobody wants to read tax law. No.
Well, I actually have a book. It's called Seasons of Sisterhood. It's a book of meditations. You can get it at jgapress.com, so you can
Really?
order that. Yeah, it's just a book of meditations based upon women in my sorority.
You
who
don't
make
have one
quotes.
here that I could buy.
I
'Cause
do
I'd like
have one. I
I'll
do
buy
have
it
one.
because I want you to sign it.
Okay,
Seriously.
well, I will do that. I will get one and have you
Oh,
sign
I mean, you
it.
have to have a book about your
Yeah.
life, though.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, this is just amazing.
it's you know what? I think it's an ordinary life. I think that it's a life that anyone can
You're
have.
not an ordinary
But I was
person.
just going to say,
Yeah,
people,
you're an
people,
extraordinary woman,
people
so.
like you always think that their life is just ordinary.
Well,
Yeah.
They always think
well,
that.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and then
right.
there's people like us.
They already have ordinary.
right. Well, that's very
We'll show you ordinary. We'll give
It's
you a
very
ride in our car.
But I will tell you, my mother would have no other way of her children. So we're,
Yeah.
we're just not cut from that kind of cloth.
Wow.
We want to be.
Well, she did a wonderful job.
Well, thank you. Very kind of
Any
you.
possibility of getting you into politics?
Well, I've been approached from time to time, and who knows what my
Oh, my
future will have.
Who
But
knows?
my new thing is I'm going to become a YouTube superstar.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it is. I've set up.
You will be.
I've set up
Yeah.
a company. It's called SkinnyThick.com,
Oh,
and
I
it's
saw that. I
journeying
was
me.
wondering
It's
what that was.
following me on my journey to better health. So I've developed this program, and it's really for people people who live in urban environments. And it's, I often have people say, well, if I had Oprah Winfrey money, I'd be able to lose weight too. I can get a personal chef. So I said, I'm going to set it to the point of showing people that on a modest budget, you can have healthy, good food and lose weight. And so the dinner plan is like nothing more than $10 for feeding 4 people. Wow. And that it's an urban thing, so we don't have access to a lot of fruits and vegetables that are fresh. But thank gosh that over the years, since the banquet dinners of my youth, the fresh frozen things you can get are still have the nutritional value, and so you use those kinds of things. But I stay within that budget, and I make these meals, and I put up menu plans, and I've lost 30 pounds in 30 days so far.
Really?
And so the point is that I want people to follow me on this journey to better health, and so I put up videos every week. You can
So it's on YouTube.
Yeah, well, you can go to skinnythick.com.
Okay.
And then there's a link there to the YouTube channel, and you can go to the
We'll
YouTube
put
channel.
that up on our page.
Well, I appreciate it.
too,
I need
okay?
subscribers. I
Yeah.
think I have 4,
Okay.
so let's get it.
You know what we should do is, I don't know what your schedule's like, maybe in
should have her on the
January or
show
February,
again.
is get you on
Yeah.
our show at the podcast
Yeah,
and
and
do an
I'm-
hour, and we can talk all about that.
I'd love to.
We'd love
And then
to
you can
have
see
on.
more
Yeah.
weight
Yeah.
loss, and then just know that it works.
Awesome.
But
What made you do that? You just
Well, because of the fact that obesity is a problem in urban environments, that we have so many fast food restaurants, and it's very difficult to eat healthfully and eat flavorful food. A lot of people, particularly in urban cities, they say, oh, I've got to have the pork and the collard green. Well, I have a vegetarian collard green recipe that's delicious. I have a smothered cabbage recipe that my mother swears has meat in it, and I'm like, no, it's about herbs and seasonings and spices. And I remember one of the fundraisers I had here, we had Josh Humphrey from Social Kitchen did a master dinner for a bidding project. Someone got 10 people.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And so he and I were in the kitchen talking about herbs and spices. I had just received a bunch of herbs and spices from Africa and from India, and I'm making blends because I think that it's the seasoning of the
It
foods
is.
that
It
makes
is.
it taste good. And
Right.
so I'm using modest things so that things that people can get from different places around that you can get at a local store, that you can get at the local market. Because for me, what made me want to do it is that people are dying from I'm overweight. I need to lose it. We need to get healthier. Clearly, the way that our legislation is going, they're thinking about cutting back health care benefits, and you're going to be on your own.
Right.
And you're going to be 80 years old without health care. You've got to be able to stand on your own 2
Right.
feet,
Yes.
walk a mile or whatever.
Right.
And so that was part of this thing with this. I really want to dedicate myself to my own health, and by example, showing people that if I can lose weight, just a regular person without any executive chef, all I'm doing is
Right.
walking,
Right.
things like that, then you can too. And it's just a little bit. So my motto is, I'm healthier today than I was yesterday.
Oh, that's-
And
every day is
Great
an
motto.
improvement.
Exactly.
Right?
And I call it skinny thick because
I like that.
because I realize, in my mind, people either weigh 100 pounds or they weigh 300. I have like body dysmorphia, but in the opposite, ways. Like everyone weighs 100 pounds. Like you're 100, you're 100, you're 100, you're 100. And then
Which is
I'm
so much.
Yeah.
right,
now.
exactly. And so I think, to look good, I say, oh, you got to be like this. So I'm 5'9". So I thought to be a good shape, I have to weigh like 140 pounds. Well, then I saw this model. A fitness model, it's one of the videos I told her, she's an African fitness model who is 5'9", and she weighed 200 pounds. And she looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And I saw Jill Scott, and she looks fantastic. Ashley
She looks-
Graham.
yes.
And these models who have
Yes.
curves that look great, and they're
Yeah.
healthy.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being 100 pounds, but there's okay to be 180
That's
too.
Right, right.
And that's the range. We don't have to have shaming. A size 12 is okay.
Right,
And
right.
size 14 is okay. As long as you can take care of yourself and you're healthy, that's the thing.
Right.
And we also remember that muscle weighs more. So, if you're weighing more. So, I remember the funny story about it was that my sister-in-law, who's very petite, she was having, my nephew, and she's like, oh, I'm such a pain. I've never weighed this much before in my life. I said, well, how much are you weighing? She goes, this kid is about to come out. I weigh 179 pounds, and I can't get. I said, girl, if I weighed 179 pounds, you wouldn't be able to talk to me. Daisy Dukes
at me.
cut up, cut down. I'd be like all over it. So I said, so it's all different things. So if I weighed 180 pounds, I would be fine. That kind of thing.
And you weren't nervous at all to put it out there and on YouTube and have people
Well-
be that to
I
your
wanna
personal.
witness. It's
Yeah,
a
to your
witness, and I want to show people you can do it. It kind of keeps me honest. You having me back makes sure that I stay on it. Now, it also
Right.
shows, but I also show the fact that you have starts and fits. I'm a human being, so I want people to see that it's a journey. You know, people will get upset, for example, when they lose weight and they go off and they may gain 5 pounds. And,
Right.
oh, I'm ruined.
Yeah.
Well, think about people who are healthy who go on cruises. They'll eat and enjoy themselves and they'll gain 5 or 10, but they come back and they bring back their weight. That's what normal people do.
That's
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
not beating myself up. You know, this packing of this 16,000 square foot home has put me into some bad eating habits. So I've gained a little bit. And I just did a video with my guy that we talked about the fact, you know, showing me with all these boxes around that I had to get off. I made bad choices because I was trying to get in really quickly and get out. You know, I went and got fast food because I was packing. It was 9 o'clock at night and I hadn't eaten. Made bad choices. You know, I need to make myself, and this is the thing with all health things, you need to make yourself a priority. You are
Yeah.
the first priority with health, and that's the first rule of Skinny Thick, is making yourself a priority. If people tell me, well, I can't do this because I have a family and my kids won't eat that. Well, guess what? For 6 months, your kids can eat what you're going to eat. You've given them
Right.
years
They
of their
can.
life.
Right.
Right.
For 6 months, we're going to eat what mom and dad eat, and we're
Right.
going to be healthy. And then after 6 months, you can go back to yourself.
Yeah.
But by that point,
Yeah.
your body is into
Yeah.
the taste
You
of
use
those
it.
things that you have,
Yes.
and they'll have it. So
Yeah.
that's the first rule. And I didn't make myself a priority. I made packing the house up a priority. So that's the thing. And you'll see that on the videos. Those things come
So
up.
it's very
just-
relatable then.
That's
I mean,
the
because
point.
everybody goes through that. The ups
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I get
downs,
the
so.
feedback on with people. It's like, you know, you are speaking to me because it's
Right.
the same thing, the secret truth that we've all hidden.
Right.
You know, the ice cream container at the bottom of the garbage can,
Right.
you know, that kind of
Right.
thing, you know.
Or the
Well, I
bottle
think
of
you-
wine.
I
Right,
think you're
exactly.
on to your next calling.
I hope so.
Yes.
It's going to be
Yeah.
fun. It's
Well,
gonna
I
be
was
fun.
thinking about a book.
Well, you never
A
know.
recipe
book. Yeah.
Well, that I love.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
professionally trained as a chef,
Skinny
so
Thick.
that's the thing. Exactly. So that's in the works. We're working on that as well, and those recipes are up on the website, so you'll see
Oh,
a few of
that's
them that we've already
awesome.
put. So it's going to be
Wow.
fun. Yeah, exactly.
What?
What's that?
The website is www.skinnythick.com.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you
Yeah.
back on our show.
Definitely.
Let's talk about
Definitely.
this here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now back to this mansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your favorite room?
All of them. I was talking about this to someone, but being in a home like this, believe it or not, I'm allowed to do different themes in different rooms. So I love the sunroom because of the beautiful fountain there, the Tiffany glass windows that surround on all three sides.
beautiful in
The
there.
stained glass, and I can look out on the 2 acres expanse in the back and really feel like I'm in the country. So I love that room, but I also love the Wedgwood room, which is a bedroom upstairs that's Wedgwood blue, but it also has Wedgwood chandeliers and sconces in the room, and it's a beautiful, peaceful color room. And it's actually, before we set it up for the sale, was really decorated with all the colors I love, but it had an Asian-inspired
Oh, okay.
Wedgwood thing. So it was really weird. I found these wonderful fabrics to make curtains that were Asian inspired, but they were Wedgwood blue ink on them. And so I used that. It was kind of a mix and juxtaposition of things. And then the final one was obviously my kitchen, because I was professionally trained as a chef. So I have that dream kitchen. And when I say that, I have to tell people the truth, which is I took classes on how to cut stuff because I wanted to know how to chop stuff up fast, you know. And so I took that one class and I learned the chef school, they have the people who are doing the cutting classes actually prepare the stuff for the people making the stock classes. We're cutting chickens and onions and carrots and things like that.
Yeah.
But I can always now say I've been professionally trained, even if it's that one class.
But you can
Wow.
chop stuff.
I can
you know.
sure chop stuff.
Now you've
Exactly.
had a lot of charity events here, right?
I have, yes.
And what's been the highlight? Would you say, since in the last 15 years?
There have been lots of highlights that I've enjoyed. One of the things I thought was kind of fun was the very first charity event we had was for the United Way of Southeastern Michigan. And that was before we even did any restoration. The house was torn up. It was messed up. And they said, no, we want to be the first ones to have a party. We're going to have a construction party. And we're going to tell people come in overalls and they gave out hard hats at the door.
Really?
And they
That's
raised $150,000 off the rip. So
Wow, yeah.
I was so happy to be part of that. And I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
Usually you fix your house up for a party. I was like, exactly. I just opened the door and they had that. So that was a fun one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the highlight of owning the home was having then Senator Barack Obama here.
Yeah. So how
And
did that happen?
Well, I'm involved in Democratic politics and had worked in Washington, D.C., doing some things I've actually had the privilege of working for several administrations in terms of advising, including Reagan and Bush 1, back in a time when people worked together and cooperated. But I did some work for the Clinton administration on healthcare, and then, as I said, when there was a change in administration to Bush 2, I decided to come back home. Although I was in private practice in Washington, D.C., you're often called in as an expert to help them draft legislation. So I worked in those kind of capacities. And so when I came here, I called my friends at the White House and I said, hey, what's going on in Michigan that I should know politically? And they said, well, there's this young woman who's the attorney general who's running for governor, and she's really someone we think you should watch. And her name was Jennifer Granholm. And so I drove through a snowstorm and met Jennifer and worked on her campaign with her. And so then we started to use the home for, Senator Stabenow and different things. And I got the call. They said, this young senator is coming to town. We'd like to do a Democratic fundraiser with him. Do you mind we use your home? You've got all the space. I said, great. And it was such a privilege. My mother, I said, adopted him on site. And
had you heard of him before then?
Yeah, I had heard of him. I'd seen the speeches and everything. And so I was very honored to have him here. And then what happened was that when he launched his campaign, they needed to have an office for his Detroit office. They couldn't find space, so they stayed here for 2 weeks. So I had their campaign office was set up here for 2 weeks on my first floor. And they said I was spoiling them because I had a chef that prepared lunches and breakfast for them. So they'd come in and they'd have a display, and then they'd have the guy would grill things. They're like, you're spoiling us. This is not how we work in campaigns. We're used to just like granola and whatever we can get. So for a couple of weeks they stayed here till they could find a permanent office. So that was kind of fun, having them here to do that. So that was a highlight. But having him here was a highlight. And then all the years the stars have come through. I've had many Motown artists come through, and Kid Rock, who actually Kid Rock had a great appreciation for the architecture. I think he's a carpenter, so he loved all the woods and everything and appreciated that. So it's just been a wonderful run.
I think it's just so great that you bought this place and you restored it, and you have it looking beautiful, and you didn't like close it off from everybody,
right?
Because most people would do that.
I
just think it's so wonderful.
Right.
That
Well, I'm a people person, As I say, I come from
that's
a family.
Obvious.
I come from a family of people person. It's like I think that as I tell people, the Motown Mansion mantra is from one of the movies I love is To Wong Fu. Thanks for everything.
Oh yeah.
And there's a line in there that says, "Bigger than life is just the right size. Step into the light. Larger than life is just the right size." Well, that's exactly what the Motown Mansion's about. Who has an estate sale and they have the Motown artists here to sign the things?
I know.
Extravaganza. Exactly. So that's a kind of a fun thing. I just can't have an estate sale. I said, Aaron, we've got this Motown stuff. Wouldn't it be great for people to have access to the artist? Again, the community that may not have access, they can buy something, come around the corner, have it autographed, and maybe pay for the kids' college tuition in a few years. That kind of thing. So I'm happy to do it. It was a lot of work to pull that off, but it was just something I thought was another.
But you did it. You came up with it, and you followed through and did it.
So
it's wonderful.
We'll see how it works in theory. It's great in theory, but we'll see how it works out.
Are you mentally and emotionally prepared for like tomorrow when people are coming in and they are buying and the stuff is leaving? I'm
emotionally prepared to let go of the things that I don't want. I mean, believe it or not, that's just a small portion. I've got 3 warehouses, a storage room full of things.
Oh, wow.
So I have lots of things that I have kept and everything. But I think the difficulty will be in letting go of the home, because it has been just a source of pride for me. It's been a source of taking it from what it was to what it is now, a habitable home. And, quite frankly, just the notoriety, having people like you that are interested in someone like me that own because of the home, so that's going to be kind of stepping out of the light for that, but maybe stepping into something new.
I'm sure it is.
It is something new.
Right,
that's why I want your autograph right now. I'm no dummy. I'm going to put that book up for auction.
Thank you.
Gosh.
So.
Wow. Well,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But fun with you and just
good luck with everything. But we're going to be following you, and we are going to get you back on the show. We definitely want to promote those YouTube videos because I think that's fantastic. Because it almost sounds like a support group. This could be a support group for everybody going through.
Absolutely.
Weight loss and
I hope
struggles.
to create that kind of community. Which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, you've created a community with everything else, so I don't know why not.
Thank you.
Well, when you started talking, I was thinking to myself, it's like, wow, her voice is really calming.
Yeah.
She should be teaching or doing something. That's what I was thinking that the whole
I
time.
think she's going to
yeah.
be changing the world.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
very
think-
kind of you to
yeah.
say that.
I think this could be our next president.
Ah,
There we
well,
go.
listen to you.
Hey.
I love it. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for that endorsement.
Yeah.
You one day sat across the street and looked at this house and said it's going to be mine, right?
And
Oh,
here
I
you
just
are.
said- here I
One
am.
day you said that.
One
And
day,
here
one
we are.
day. Well, my next thing is not necessarily president, but YouTube superstar. So that
Okay. Baby
superstar
steps.
spelled
Baby steps.
SUPERSTAH, superstar.
There you go.
Okay, well, it's been a pleasure.
Oh my
So,
gosh,
thank
thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for